Well, hello, my name is Jim Royal. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope that you do subscribe to my channel. I'm a huge Beatles and Elvis Presley fan, and at the end of the video, if you could do a thumbs up, most appreciated. Today I wanted to share with you, talk to you about the Beatle album that was never officially released. It remains unreleased to this day. It was supposed to be out, had a scheduled date of November of 1984. What was that Beatle album that never was? Well, let me give you some more information about it before I reveal the secret. Geoff Emerick, famed Beatle engineer who was responsible for engineering Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band, Abbey Road, also Revolver, was brought in to Abbey Road, EMI, to mix this album. What this consisted of was unreleased studio recordings from the beginning of their time with EMI in 1962 up through 1969. Now let me just give you a quick backstory about this. In 1976, when the Beatles recording contract had expired, Capitol and EMI continued to try to find ways to sell Beatle records. They would put together compilations of previously released material. They would put out live albums. They would put out best ofs, everything they could. Well, there were a couple times there where they were thinking of, what do we have? Do we have any lost gems, anything in the can that we could release to the Beatles that the world hasn't heard and is really amazing? They weren't sure. They thought about it, bought the idea several times, and finally in 1982, they had EMI, or Abbey Road, had house engineer John Barrett take a look at the archives, go through the old recordings that the Beatles had done, and see if there's anything at all on the cutting room floor that maybe they can use to put together an album. So he logged it, he took a lot of time doing it, and came out with a nice sizable amount of material that could fit a full album. In fact, in 1983, Abbey Road had a tour of the studios where the Beatles had recorded, specifically themed for Abbey Road and the Beatles, and it was really amazing apparently. Not only did you get to see where the magic happened, where these songs were created, but they also played these unreleased tracks as you got to walk through the studio. It was amazing. So this brings me to 1984. I gotta give the secret out. The Beatles Sessions. So this is the album. This was one of the proposed covers for it. This is the Beatles actually at Abbey Road in the Courtyard in 1963. Here's the back side. And I'm going to show you a record that I have. I bought this last year. This is just one of the versions of it. It says it's released on the Beatles and the EMI Odeon label. And here is the record. So that's pretty cool. And then the back side. Okay. Well, the Beatles weren't happy with this album. They didn't want it released. Not at this time. I'm not sure all of the reasons. I know Paul McCartney had a soundtrack coming out that same month in November '84 for Give My Regards to Broad Street, and he didn't want anything that happened that would deflect, from that album selling well. So I'm going to talk about this album a little bit. It's near and dear to my heart. This is an unofficial copy that I've had since the late 80s, and I've really enjoyed it. Now, all of these songs would later appear on anthologies 1, 2, and 3, which were really wonderful double albums that came out in '95 and '96. There was a nice documentary of the same name and later a book for the Beatles, anthology, and it was great. I would encourage you to check it out. But what I like about this is the fact that it's a single album. And I grew up with this and I really love it. So I'm going to start off with the first song. Let me just start out. There were going to be 14 songs connected with this. 13 songs on the album, and then there was actually going to be a single that was going to be released. Could you imagine a single, a brand new, at least to the world, unheard Beatles song that was recorded when the Beatles were a band? I mean, it was just amazing. And then there was a B-side, that an unissued song or alternate version that was not on the album. So we're dealing with 14 songs here. First one is called Come and Get It. Come and Get It is a wonderful poppy Paul McCartney song that he recorded late 1969. I believe it was summer 69. Recorded at Abbey Road, and he, according to information I've read, he did it in a little over about an hour. He demoed the song. It had him on drums, there's guitar, there's piano, backing vocals, bass, and of course him singing lead. It's a wonderful song. It's not spectacular, but it's a nice pop song. He gave the song specifically to Badfinger, one of the Apple artists that they were managing. Apple had a there was a soundtrack for Magic Christian that Badfinger were working on. Actually, that movie was starring Ringo Starr and Peter Sellers, by the way. So when he gave the song to them, he says, "You do it exactly the way that I demoed it, and I will guarantee you that you will have a top 10. And sure enough, they did. I've heard both versions, and they did a really nice job with it. All right, the next song is called Leave My Kitten Alone. Leave My Kitten Alone is a wonderful song. It's my favorite song on the album. Little John Turner he wrote the song, and then he would later record the song. And it's an amazing rocker. It was recorded during the Beatles For Sale sessions in 1964. Now, they were doing a lot of cover tunes at this time, so there would be no reason why they wouldn't release this song. Outside of just maybe having too much material, I don't know. I love it. I just can't figure it out. It's a great rollicking rocker. Nice piano on there. Just really having kind of a rock and roll music upbeat number. This was supposed to be the first single for this proposed 1984 album. And the B-side was going to be Obla Di Obla Da, an earlier version, which is really good also. This is Leave My Kitten Alone. This is Take 5. There was Take 4, which is a breakdown, and then Take 5 is complete. You got to check it out. You got to check your anthology if you haven't heard it yet. I really like it a lot. All right, the next song is called Not Guilty. Not Guilty is a George Harrison song that was recorded during the White Album sessions. It took them 102 takes before they got it. I believe, legend has it, that Eric Clapton plays guitar on here. It's a wonderful song. I think maybe it just got the boot for various reasons. Some of the subject matter, hey Beatles, don't blame me for the India experience and what happened with the Maharishi, I don't know. Also, there were a lot of great songs that were on the White Album. There's only so much they can put on there, and George already had 4 contenders for it. But this is a really nice song. It's a good upbeat, up-tempo song. George would later record it in 1979 for his George Harrison self-titled album. It's a little more mellower at that time, but both versions are good. But this is my favorite one. All right, next song on the album is I'm Looking Through You. This is an earlier song, earlier take. I think it's take 1 from Rubber Soul. I love it. I love both versions. I'm happy with finally the released version from Rubber Soul, but I would say that I really like this a lot too. There's a little maracas on there. It's a little more unplugged. You hear, nice acoustic guitar on it. I like the direction they were going. It is fun, and even though the song has the same lyrics and it's pretty similar, it is nice to hear a band evolve. They start out in one direction and then they end up somewhere else. So check that one out too. All right, the last song that would close this side would be What's the New Mary Jane. This was a John Lennon song recorded for the White Album. It's a little over 6 minutes long. It does have participation from Yoko. You can hear her in there. George Harrison's also on it. You have Mel Evans, the roadie, on it, doing some sound effects. I like it. It's a little unusual. It's strange. It's got a piano on it. A lot of different effects and loops and stuff. Well worth checking out. I don't know. I think the Beatles just weren't happy with it. They didn't want to put it on the White Album. John later was going to put it on release it as a solo 45 with the Plastic Ono Band, and he was going to have You Know My Name, Look Up the Number, the B-side to Let It Be. Well, it later was also on there, but because that had too much involvement from the Beatles said, hey, no way. I would encourage you to check it out. Supposedly it's about John Lennon's, I'm sorry, it's about Paul McCartney's girlfriend, Jane Asher. I don't know how true it was. Girlfriend, fiance, Mary Jane had a pain at the party. Really goofy lyrics about spaghetti, just strange stuff. Check that one out. All right, next song is called How Do You Do It? How Do You Do It was a song that George Martin had said, look guys, you record this song, this will be #1. You must do it. It's just, you have to do it. And the Beatles recorded it. They supposedly weren't happy with it. It wasn't the direction that they wanted to go. It was later given to Jerry and the Pacemakers, and they had a big hit. They had a #1 hit with it. So George Martin was right. I do like the song. I just am glad that they didn't start their, their career with this, because instead they had Love Me Do, and I think that to me was a much better choice and a better song. So they stepped up. They worked on Love Me Do, and were able to record that. This one is a nice song. It's nice. It's okay. All right, next song is called Besame Mucho. Besame Mucho is a 1940 Spanish song. I think it was in Hollywood movies. A lot of artists have covered it. It's a really nice song. I've always enjoyed it. This is actually with Pete Best on drums from June of 1962, their EMI audition. I think it was done very well. I've always liked it. Paul is singing lead. It's just a fabulous tune. I really enjoy it a lot. All right, next song is called One After 909. This is the first version of that song. Okay, this was the version that was recorded in 1963. I think it was March 63 for From Me to You sessions. They recorded, it was an early Lennon-McCartney composition. I think it's got a lot of fire, it's got a lot of life to it. Just as much as the later version, you can hear them, lean and mean and young recording this one. I think it's kind of funny though. George Harrison is tackling a solo and he's just fumbling badly. Sometimes it would take some time to work out an arrangement, and the Beatles at the end are just laughing. It's kind of funny. I mean, on other stuff I've heard. So I don't know. I really think that it has just as much life as the Get Back, Let It Be version, and it is fun too. They later went with another B-side. All right, If You've Got Troubles is the next song. This is where Ringo is singing lead, and this was recorded for the Help sessions. This was take one. It wasn't that spectacular of a song. It's talking about diamond rings, and they're doing, oh. And at one point, Ringo is talking when they're about to do the solo. He says, rock on, anybody. Normally he would say George. It's okay. What I do like, though, with the anthology is the anthology has the long, unedited version, I believe. It's longer. Jeff had edited it. He changed parts of the song around, made it shorter. But the anthology, I think, is the better version. All right, the next song is That Means a Lot. Man, I love this song. This song is wonderful. It's got a Phil Spector wall of sound. They remade it. They remade it again. I believe they remade it again. This was the original version of it, recorded during the Help sessions. I really do like it. I think some of the subject matter, love can be suicide, and I just didn't think it fit with the Beatles. I wish maybe that they would have changed the words around, maybe a little different arrangement. They could have had something. They did give the hit away to, I think, PJ Proby, and it just didn't work out with him. It was okay though, but I'm glad that it is finally released on anthology. All right, now we have While My Guitar Gently Weeps. This is a really nice song. This is take one. Little different. It's an acoustic number than what we've heard, the rock out version with Eric Clapton on the White Album. I really like this a lot. I really like it as a little bit of the organ in the background. I think Paul is playing that. It's got an extra verse on here. It's laid back, acoustic. It is a favorite of mine. It later, I think, was on Love. George Martin did a score for it, orchestra backup. Really beautiful tune, and it's nice that you hear a great tune and it's able to be interpreted differently, and this is the way it was supposed to be at the beginning. All right, now you have Mailman Bring Me No More Blues. This is a Buddy Holly song that was, I believe, released as the B-side of Crying, Waiting, Hoping in 1959 originally. It is, I think, one of the better songs that the Beatles would do jams to or record that weren't their songs during the Get Back, Let It Be sessions. There's a lot of cover tunes that they're just, plowing through and having fun. I think they took this one seriously. There might have been some concerns about actually releasing this one. I love the song. I think it's great for what it is. It is a lost gem, and it's well worth checking out the Anthology 3 for that. All right, the last song is Christmas Time Is Here Again. This is a nice song. It was recorded for their 1967 Christmas album. They had split it up, and then they had little dialogue. They had little character sketches in between. But it was actually over 6 minutes long originally. It's not a spectacular song. I think they all have writing credit for it. Very repetitive. Ringo Starr would later record it for his Christmas album. So listen to that version. I think it was the Real Love single, if I'm not mistaken, that had this song eventually on there as a B-side, and it is a little bit longer than this version. So I want to thank you very much for watching my video, and you have a very nice day. Take care. Thanks.